You know that annoying moment when you try to send one text in your own kitchen and the bars disappear for no good reason? It feels tiny, almost stupid, until you realize how much of your day is balanced on invisible signals behaving themselves. In 1859, Richard Carrington was at his telescope when he saw a sudden flash on the sun, a white light flare, which is already a phrase that sounds like the universe showing off. He drew it, timed it, and then not long after, Earth got hit by a solar storm that arrived in about 17 or 18 hours, which is freakishly fast for something coming from the sun. Most of those eruptions take a couple of days. This one came in hot. And then the telegraph wires started acting like they had opinions. Operators got shocks. Some lines sparked. Recording tape caught fire. In some places, the telegraph system still worked, even after the batteries were disconnected, because the storm itself was driving current through the wires, which is a very rude trick, honestly. Have you tried turning it off and on again? Not a great troubleshooting path when the problem is 93 million miles away. That part gets me every time because it turns the story from interesting solar weirdness into, oh, this is a physics problem with real machinery attached. The wires were long enough to act like antennas for the changing magnetic field around Earth, and the storm pushed currents into them whether anyone wanted it or not. People in the northeastern US reportedly could read newspapers by the light of the aurora. Imagine that for a second. The sky so bright at night that the world feels borrowed. Now, zoom forward to today, and the same basic physics lands on a much more complicated machine. We don't have telegraph lines anymore. We have high voltage transmission lines, giant transformers, satellites, GPS, radio links, and timing systems that keep everything from phones to finance to aviation lined up. The weak point isn't just one thing failing, it's the cascade. One region loses power, another system loses timing, satellites get dragged around by the swollen upper atmosphere, radio gets messy, and suddenly ordinary life gets a lot less ordinary. That's why people who study this keep pointing back to 1989, when a much smaller storm knocked out Quebec's grid for about 9 hours. That event wasn't Carrington-sized, and it still caused real trouble. So the question isn't whether the sun can do this kind of thing. It already did. The question is how much slack we built into the modern grid before the next one comes along. And we are not helpless, which matters. We can watch the sun now. Spacecraft sitting out near L1 give warnings, and forecasters can see a storm coming with enough time to move some pieces around. Safe modes for satellites, reduced load on parts of the grid, a little breathing room. Not enough to relax, but enough to do better than the people in 1859 could. That's the part I find oddly hopeful. This is a known hazard, not a mystery monster. We just happen to live inside the system it can touch. So when I think about the Carrington event, I don't think first about apocalypse language or dramatic headlines. I think about that kitchen moment. One text, one bad signal, one tiny annoyance, and how much of modern life depends on invisible currents staying polite. Then I think about Richard Carrington at his telescope, seeing the flash on the sun and having no idea he was watching the start of a story that still hasn't stopped mattering.